I'm Joanna Hobbins. I'm a JS analyst at CAE. We're a major simulator company. We do defense, security, civil aviation, healthcare, and mining. We're a fairly large company, about 8,000 employees worldwide. We're based in 30 countries, and we have clients in over 150 of them. Supporting all of that, there are 4 people on the GIS team. So FME and automation is a really important thing for us. The goal of what I'm going to talk today, which is to produce realistic night scene images for our next generation of civil aviation images. Does anyone recognize the image on the screen? Anybody? It is Manhattan. It is New York. You can see Central Park. You can see the Hudson River. The challenges for these night scenes is we need to produce them worldwide. That's nearly 70,000 one-degree tiles with over almost 60 gigabytes of vector data as input, over 35 million road segments. We had to do this all automatically with the automatic validation, and we only had 6 weeks to do it all. The old process used VMAP 0, the old VPF format, which FME does read, at a 1 to 1 million scale, and would randomly put road textures and streetlights in the built-up area polygons. So the areas where there were cities, there were lights, but it was a random city, not anything having to do with reality. For our higher resolution insets, there was manual tracing off of land site imagery in Photoshop, and it took at least 8 hours per geocell, per 1-degree tile, to produce these light maps. So with nearly 70,000 in 6 weeks, that just wasn't going to happen. The new process, we were to use publicly available data. So we went with OpenStreetMaps for our roads, and our illumination zones, the areas where the roads were going to be illuminated, came from the stable nighttime lights from our good friends at NOAA. The basic workflow is to clip the roads to the illumination zones, populate points along the roads, convert those points to raster, do some raster processing in ImageMagick, restore the georeferencing, and then combine the tiles. So here's a quick slide, which is hopefully running. So everyone here recognizes the area. This is, again, our world database. In Vancouver, it'd actually have higher resolution because it's one of our top 250 airports. So we'd actually have 50 centimeter resolutions. But on the left, we have the old lightmap system, and on the right, we have the new one. And so in the old system, you can see that, yes, there is lights over Vancouver, but it could be anything. Whereas on the right, you really do see the Trans-Canada Highway and can use it for navigation purposes. So what do you think? Like the new one better? Sorry, it's not playing at all at front, so I can't see if it's over yet. So there's 2 trips that I'm allowed to share with you that really helped us when we were working on this. One is ImageMagick. ImageMagick is a free command line tool for image processing. You can get it at the website that's on the screen. It's very useful for doing focal analysis for tools that are not available in FME, things like the majority filter, focal mean, Gaussian blurs, edge detection. Now, you can run this as a post-processing with a shutdown script in FME. Using Python or TCL, but I actually needed it in the middle of my workflow because once the images were processed with ImageMagick, I had to bring them back in and do more processing in FME. So the way to work out with that was the workflow you see below, which is to extract the properties using the raster properties extractor. That's so we can restore the georeferencing later. We extract the raster to an attribute using the raster extractor, write that extracted raster to a file, attribute writer. In that case, we're using a temporary variable that we created the name that we were writing upstream in the workspace. Now, optionally, for performance, you can drop the geometry because you no longer need it, and you can drop any extra attributes from the raster property extractor, but that's not actually necessary, it's just an efficiency thing. Meanwhile, you would use the system caller to call the ImageMagick tool. The one that we're using right now is Mogrify. Mogrify is the tool that changes the image in place. If you use their other tools like Convert, you would actually have an input and output file name. And so in this case, I'm putting a blur on the image. I then read that same file back in using the raster reader, and then I restore the raster georeferencing with the raster georeferencer. And then I can continue on in my FME process as if that image had never left. Though one day we'll actually have focal analysis tools in FME?
Absolutely.
I've been asking it for like 5 years now. The other trip I want to talk about is the workspace runner. The workspace runner is one of my favorite transformers. I deal with large-scale data. 60 gigs of data, it's a lot, but it's small. The last data set I just processed was about 6 terabytes. So even FME, as powerful as it is, can't process all of that in one go. I've tried, it crashed and died horribly. So I do a lot of chopping the data up and then running in the workspace runner. The problem with the workspace runner is you can either wait for the job to complete, so it's one feature at a time, or you set the wait for job to complete equals no, and the feature launches the workspace, but then keeps going. So if I actually want to process all my subtiles, wait for the processing to finish, and then do more processing, I have to set it to wait for job to complete equals yes, and run it one at a time. But there's a way around that. If you wrap your workspace runner in a custom transformer, and you set the parallel processing level, and you put a group by on your custom transformer, back in the main workspace, you can use a modulo counter to set the number of groups you want, which is essentially the number of parallel processes you want to run at the same time. You can then have up to 7, depending on your license, child processes running at the same time, and every one of them will wait till they're done before the feature leaves the transformer and you can go do the rest of your process. Is that going to change too?
I hope so. If you ask them on stage, there's a really good chance.
Awesome. I've got a list. Can I pull it out? All right. Any questions? All right.